It's out with the t-shirt and in with the bow tie. And if you haven't already guessed, we'll tell you why this week on Motoring 2001.
TSN's Motoring 2001 is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oils, formulated for the vehicles you drive and the way you drive them. And Midas. Keep a good thing going. Go Midas.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet Katia Corriveau, Miss Swimsuit Canada 2000, and Lisa McCallum, first runner-up for 2001. And somewhere behind the girls is Motoring's pick for Best Overall Vehicle for the year 2001. Hello, everybody, and incidentally, that is not our car of the year behind me. Now, this week's special is coming to you from the Docks Entertainment Complex in Toronto, where each week Graham Fletcher conducts the Pylon segment on Test Drive outside on the gigantic parking lot. More on this place later on. But speaking of his nibs, and thankfully he is not wearing an evening dress, of course, is Graham Fletcher, the man behind the wheel. Now, Graham, this is our Car of the Year program, but really, it hasn't been a great year for brand new cars.
No, you know, there were a few ugly ones, but for the most part, there were enough good cars to cobble together a wonderful Car of the Year show. We cover all of the bases from economy to SUV and everything in between. For 2000, we've added 2 new segments, both of which point towards the future. To get things started, though, let's look at our nominees for economy and family car.
The Civic has always been a popular car, primarily because of its cuddly nature and decent ride handling and performance. The latest edition backs away from those traits, bringing a slightly softer demeanour, one many Civic-minded punters are going to miss. The Nissan Sentra has always been a decent little car. A new look and base engine build on that foundation. If you really want some serious bang for the buck, however, pick the optional 145 horse motor. Now you're going to frighten more than a few true sports car drivers. The rounded lines of old have been traded in for a more formal look. This, a stretched wheelbase, more power and a vast improvement in quality earned the Elantra our economy car of the year. The Taurus has been a staple for many Canadian families since its introduction in 1986. The latest edition is the best to date, not so much for its execution, but for a couple of simple safety features. The adjustable pedals are the most significant, and hopefully the ones that will trickle down throughout the industry. Sebring replaces the rather lackluster Stratus and Cirrus, and about time if you ask me. The new package is better in every area. The engines are refined, the suspension sporty yet comfortable, and the interior amenities plentiful. The PT Cruiser could do with more power, but when all is said and done, its funky hot rod looks and wonderful versatility are enough to push it over the top. Enough, in fact, that it wins our family car category.
Now, earlier, Graham mentioned that it hasn't been a really great year for brand new cars. Well, it's been an even tougher year for some grand old brands. The last vestiges of Plymouth disappeared when Chrysler slapped a Chrysler badge on the nose of the Prowler. And at the end of 2000, General Motors announced that Oldsmobile will be phased out over the next couple of years. Now, Olds was the oldest domestic brand. They started in 1897. They were part of General Motors by 1908, and over most of their history, they've had a reputation for technological innovation. The first automatic transmission in 1939, the high-compression Rocket 88 V8 engine in the early 50s, and did you know that Richard Petty won the Daytona 500 in 1959 in an Oldsmobile, back when NASCAR racers were actually stock cars? The first modern front-wheel drive domestic car was the gorgeous 66 Toronado, and most hot rod fans think that the 442 might have been the best of the muscle cars. And for all the bragging that Porsche and Saab do about turbocharging, well, the first turbocharged car was an Oldsmobile, back in 1964, if memory serves. And as recently as the early 80s, the Cutlass Supreme was the best-selling car in all of North America. So what happened? Well, the analysts will pick this carcass apart for years, but basically, Olds lost its focus. They stopped appealing to young, performance-oriented buyers and went after dads. Even their "It's Not Your Father's Oldsmobile" ad campaign couldn't save them. Ironically, the current Olds lineup is pretty good. They sold 350,000 cars last year, but that was down from over 1 million back in the 80s, and that's the wrong way for a trend to go. And over half of those cars were to fleets, which don't generate much, if any, profit for the parent corporation. Now, most of the brands Oldsmobile was trying to compete with would die for 350,000 sales a year in North America. But you take something like Acura, that's but one of 2 brands that Honda has to support over here, whereas Oldsmobile was 1 in 7 for General Motors. Something had to go, and Oldsmobile is it. Hey, it's sad, but things do change. After all, nobody makes the American Motors Hornet anymore. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Don't go away as Katia and Lisa stand by to unveil our pick for best vehicle for the year 2001. Each week on Test Drive, Graham Fletcher conducts his Pylon segment on the shores of Lake Ontario. In reality, this is the parking lot of the Docks Entertainment Complex, which is the site of our Car of the Year program for 2001.
I think the easiest way is to call it an adult playground. We have an indoor nightclub, which holds about 2,800 people, an indoor restaurant called Tides, which is a little more upscale, 50,000 square foot patio with a swimming pool, which holds about another 3,000 or 4,000, games area, volleyball, indoor and outdoor volleyball, rock climbing, games of chance, driving range, mini putt. I mean, it's kind of all here. We've done a number of car shows, kind of classic cars where they all get together on Wednesday night and they park in the parking lot, and I would love to do more of that.
Well, the party continues on our Car of the Year show as we look at luxury and performance cars.
This car is perhaps the best Mercedes car yet produced. It's large enough to be comfortable, yet compact enough to deliver spirited road manners. Add the cachet of the TriStar and this car is going to be an unqualified success. Aurora is the best North American car built. The revisions bring a modern style, better power, nimble handling and a very comfortable ride, and a smarter interior. Too bad all of this good news comes hot on the heels of the announcement of Oldsmobile's demise. Not only can you now put sporty and Volvo in the same sentence, you can do so with authority. The S60, especially in T5 guise, is balanced, well equipped and a match for any of its classmates. How good is it? Just ask that young child who darted out in front of the car. She survived unscathed thanks to the exceptional brakes. Our luxury sedan of the year is the Volvo S60. When Ford managed to squeeze 200 horsepower through a front drive platform, it was a marvel. Acura take it to the next level with the CL. A great dynamic package is underscored by 225 stampeding horses, 215 pounds-feet of torque, and a nicely appointed cabin. The IS300 reaffirms that Lexus is serious about challenging BMW for the sports car crown. The rear drive format, strong engine, great gearbox and a delightful interior package that includes the best looking set of dials on the market should make it a winner. The GTI is a legend in the mind of anyone who's lusted after affordable performance. The addition of a 150 horse turbocharged 4 is good news as it adds some real sizzle to an already enticing stake. The Lexus IS300 is the quality here and so picks up our sports car of the year. The best vet yet is the only way of describing the new Z06 package. Inspired by the original, this version brings 385 tyre shredding horsepower to a car that was already proud. Add to that a very trick dynamic stability package and heaven is but the turn of a key away. The lone knock against the SLK was a distinct lack of power. At last, Mercedes-Benz has added the 3.2-litre 6 to the mix. This not only greatly enhances performance, it brings a smoothness that was lacking in the previous version. Some describe the Boxster as a poor man's 911. Now that moniker might have stuck were it not for the introduction of the S. Needless to say, this model ups the power and performance appreciably. I mean, after all, who can sneeze at 250 horsepower in a car that weighs but 2,800 pounds? The performance car of the year goes to the best vet yet. Long live horsepower.
Our Midas tip of the week concerns manuals and information on your car. Just the other day, a friend asked me to check out this red car that you see in the background. It's a 13-year-old Pontiac, and it was kind of a basic model to start with, a Sunbird. Nothing fancy about it other than a turbo engine in this particular one. But in any case, when we got to checking the car out, we couldn't believe how good a condition the vehicle was in. When I looked on the passenger seat, what do I see? A General Motors shop manual, a factory service manual on that car. I'm not talking about the owner's manual that comes in the glove box, that skinny little thing that tells you where to put the key in and how to tune the radio. I'm talking about that big, thick shop manual that they nick you 50 or 60 bucks for. Now, it's money well spent, because sooner or later, sometime in the life of that car, you're going to have to consult with somebody about a major repair in that car in all likelihood. And when you have the shop manual with you, you can refer to diagrams. You've got flow charts, wiring diagrams, all kinds of things. Anything you want to know about that car is in that shop manual. And I'll tell you, even if you don't want to fix it yourself, it's going to come in handy someday to somebody who's repairing your car. Think about buying one. That's your Midas tip of the week.
We're back at the Docks Entertainment Complex in Toronto as Katia and Lisa stand by to unveil our pick for Best Vehicle for the year 2001. Unfortunately, Bill Gardner couldn't get away from the shop to join us here, but you know Bill, this is the time of the year when he likes to get a few things off his chest concerning the automotive world from his perspective. So how about it, Bill?
Brad, I just want to know one thing. How come Katia and Lisa never show up for any of my shoots? Anyhow, Brad, there are a couple things I want to get off my chest. Now, in recent years, great progress has been made with cars in terms of powertrain development. Engines are way up on power, better drivability, better fuel economy, better packaging. Transmissions have been improved greatly. A lot of good things to be said about cars in that respect, but I'll tell you, some of the goofy stuff that's going on elsewhere in the car, some of it just defies logic. Now, my number one pet peeve with cars, and this has been going on for quite a few years, is right here. Express down on the windows. You touch the power window button, and what does it do? It goes all the way to the bottom. Now, this car is 12 years old, and the power window's getting a little bit lazy, a little bit slow, but some of these new cars, you just touch that button, and inside of a second and a half, that window goes right to the bottom. Now, in this country, that's just not what you want. I'm in and out of dozens of cars every day test driving them, and at least once a week I get in a situation where I touch that window button, I want it down just a crack to vent the inside of the car a little bit for one reason or another. What do I get? The window all the way to the bottom, and here comes a truck the other way through this much wet slush, and a rooster tail of slush goes right across the inside of the car. Not the hot setup. Or if, for example, in the wintertime, if your windows are frozen with ice, you touch that button and realize the window didn't budge, you don't want the motor to continue until it breaks something inside the door. This is just a dumb idea that somebody needs to get rid of. Anyhow, talking about winter weather problems with cars, one thing that a lot of motorists have trouble with in the winter, when you have driving snow and freezing rain, etc., the wipers tend to clog up with ice and snow to the point where they're no longer effective. Now, if you've got a plastic frame or metal frame wiper blade of this style, by the way, metal frame blades are the best thing for spring, summer, and fall. But in the wintertime, when you're having ice up problems, these winter type blades are the thing to go with. And a lot of drivers are already aware of them. If you haven't tried them, you might want to think about getting a pair of these for winter driving only. You can see that they're jacketed with a thin skin of rubber to keep any ice and snow from clogging up the superstructure of the blade. This blade is very similar inside to what you see in this one. It's just covered over with a skin of rubber to prevent it from freezing up. Now, I'm not real fond of these things in the summertime, and I don't like the look of them, but I got to admit they do work well for the wintertime. So you might want to get yourself a set of these for the wintertime. And if your other blades are still in decent shape, don't throw them out. Set them aside in the garage and put them back on in the springtime after the ice and snow is gone. You'll have the perfect setup for year-round then. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2001.
The original Chrysler Magic Wagon set the standard, and ever since the rest have been playing catch-up. While the latest version is more evolutionary than revolutionary, it brings some very pleasant surprises. More power, more versatility, indeed more of everything this vehicle is respected for. The most car-like of all minivans, the Quest has undergone a minor makeover for the coming year. Among its many attributes is a clever sliding seat that actually allows you to carry 5 passengers while storing the cargo where it should be. Few can match this seemingly sensible premise. Mazda's MPV has undergone a tremendous transition, going from fringe player to one that is the epitome of the small minivan. It is versatile, featuring a fold-away seat, and car-like enough to make you feel as though you're driving a large wagon. Our long-term tester proved its worth. Our minivan of the year can only go to the originator, and that's the Dodge Caravan. Hot on the heels of the CL Coupe comes the very car-like MDX. While the name conjures up pictures of a doctor doing unmentionable things, the package is just about right. A good engine, solid body, and go just about anywhere ability are married to a suitably well-appointed interior. At last, an SUV that brings a modicum of sport with the utility, but that is where the X5 falls down. With only 685 litres of trunk space, it's less than utilitarian. This, however, is more than compensated for by its dynamic behaviour, potent engine, and a very civilised ride. Making waves is what Acura does best, and so the MDX picks up our luxury sport utility of the year. The thought of Hyundai building a sports ute seems somewhat odd, but build it they have. The Santa Fe delivers V6 power, all-wheel drive, a tough exterior shell, and the needed versatility. Could this perhaps be the Elantra of the sports ute brigade? These corporate twins build on a relationship that has done both very well. The rugged look, capable 200-horse V6 and a decent all-wheel drive system are nicely complemented with a large, roomy interior. This pair set a new standard not likely to be matched in the near future. Consequently, they pick up our affordable SUV of the year.
Now, this would be your car of the year, except for one small problem. You can't get one of these over here. This is the Mercedes-Benz Smart Car, and it's the absolute hottest ticket in Europe. Why? Because over there, the ultimate luxury is finding a place to park. This car could be its own key fob. You could put this thing in the back of some guy's minivan, or more likely, just back it perpendicular to the sidewalk. In traffic, it's almost as maneuverable as a motorcycle, and yet this morning I was driving on the highway at a $140, and it kept up with traffic, no problem. There's a 3-cylinder engine in the back, gets about 1 billion miles to the gallon. There's a 6-speed manual transmission with a fully automatic clutch. You just tap the lever forward to upshift, tap it back to downshift, just like a Formula One car. And if you don't even want to do that, push a button, it's completely automatic. It's got ABS brakes, traction control, it's got directional stability control, airbags, meets all the safety standards. There's lots of room for 2 people, a little bit of luggage. Okay, the ride's a bit choppy because after all, it's about the size of an electric wheelchair. And if you're going to someplace you're not supposed to be, don't go in this car because everybody's going to stare at you. Now, personally, I'd buy one of these things in a heartbeat. For 18 grand, are you kidding? I think everybody would. So why don't they bring it over? Well, they don't think there's a market. I think they're wrong. Then again, as long as we keep giving gasoline away and people stay enamored of their 50s technology trucks, well, we might just never get a chance to get smart. Oh, excuse me, I think that's my shoe. Hello, Chief?
Don't go away. When we return, Katia and Lisa will unveil Motoring's best of class for the year 2001. We're back at the Docks Entertainment Complex in Toronto, where Katia and Lisa are about to unveil our best overall vehicle for the year 2001. But before we get to that, we have another new segment.
We do indeed, Brad, and we're calling it Tomorrow's World. The 3 vehicles you're about to see bridge the gap where we are today and where we need to be tomorrow.
While the Insight uses electric power to boost the fuel economy numbers to a level Scrooge might approve of, and not as a source of pull-away power, its environmental impact is significant nonetheless. Looks and limited seating apart, Insight is indeed an insight into the car of the future. How can you argue with something that's so smart? It's large enough to handle your average football player in relative comfort, yet small enough to nip through the congestion with ease. And enough power to cruise at 120 kilometers an hour, and what more could you ask for? The ability to operate on electric power when crawling down a congested street and yet deliver satisfactory highway performance is what sets the Prius apart. It impressed us enough that we presented our first Tomorrow's World Award.
To me, a car of the year should really alter the automotive landscape. It should really change the way we think about automobiles. It shouldn't just be a rehash of an existing model or just the best looking or the best performing, not even the best value or the best selling. Above all, it should not be boring. Now this year, you might consider something like the Honda Insight, the first hybrid gasoline-electric car to be sold in this country. But they're only going to sell a couple of hundred of these things. How significant could that possibly be? The thing's hugely expensive to make. Honda loses a shirt on every single one they sell. Plus, I'm not convinced that hybrid technology is the long-term answer to our energy problems. Plus, a Volkswagen Golf diesel gets better fuel consumption and has twice as much room inside. Something like the Corvette Z06, well, that's the most fun you can have in a car with your clothes on, but again, it appeals to a very limited market. Now, Brad and Graham have been choosing the car of the year on the show for 14 years. I don't get a vote, understand? And they've got it right 2, maybe 3 times tops in all those years. But this year, there is one car that moves the goalposts. It's such an obvious pick, even they couldn't get it wrong. This car is funky to look at inside and out. It's cheap to buy. It's practical to own. There's lots of room inside. It's versatile. It's fun to drive. Everybody stares at you when you're driving it. You gotta love that. Maybe for me, the best thing is it might actually get some people out of their sport utilities. All right. And it's a hatchback that even an American could love. Yep, this year for the car of the year, no question about it, the Chrysler PT Cruiser. Guys, I hope you got a silver one.
It was true the PT Cruiser sat very high on our list of contenders, but the thought of rear-ending the front bumper every time you pull away, well, it made me shudder. If they'd have shoehorned in the V6, who knows? Now let's meet our 2001 Vehicle of the Year. So why a minivan? Well, aside from the fact that it's the best-selling vehicle in Canada, the notion that they're frumpy is simply outdated. How good is the Caravan? Well, 4 out of every 10 minivans carry a Chrysler nameplate. It's comfortable, powerful, flexible, versatile, and quite frankly, the best from the past year. Many may argue, but in terms of market impact, this is a significant vehicle.
Well, that's it, and congratulations to all our winners, although let's face it, there wasn't a bad vehicle in the group. Before we go, we want to say thank you to you, our viewers, as well as our sponsors, Quaker State and Midas. You know, we came to air in the fall of 1987. Who would have thought we'd be standing here today talking about 2001 models? Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
TSN's Motoring 2001 has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oils, formulated for the vehicles you drive and the way you drive them. And Midas. Keep a good thing going. Go Midas.